Hello there. Welcome to Penpositive. This is Vinod Narayan. And today we're going to talk about a book, Facebook. Facebook, The Inside Story by Stephen Levy. It's a 540-page book, but don't worry, it's not a tough read. I am not a very fast reader, and I was able to complete the book in around a week. So you would be able to, if you are a fast reader, complete it within a few days. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe it. And if you watch the video till the end and you like it, press the like button. And if you think this video is worth someone's time, go ahead and share it. The book Facebook, The Inside Story, is divided into 3 parts. But before we get there, most of us use social media, or many of us use. There are people who don't use. There are people who are not active on it. There are also people who started using it and then stopped using it for various reasons. Maybe because they thought they were spending a lot of time on it. Maybe they had other reasons, like they thought there was a privacy issue. Whatever be the reasons, they stopped using it. But still, lot many people use Facebook or other social media. And when you say social media, the first name that at least comes to my mind is Facebook. And that's not because Facebook is the first social media company that came into existence. We had MySpace, Friendster, but then Facebook was the company that really took social media and that concept into the next level. They were able to cash in on opportunities. They were able to transform and grow. And I think that's what is interesting, and that's what fascinated me when I was reading this book. So the 3 parts of the book, the first part of the book is about how Facebook came into existence. And many of us might have watched the movie Social Network, but movies always have a limitation. They cannot go that detailed into what is happening. But this book, in 540 pages, you get a front seat into one of the biggest companies that happened in the last probably 15 to 20 years, right? And from there, on the second part, we talk about Facebook trying to acquire companies and acquiring some companies like Instagram and WhatsApp, and even the failed attempt to acquire Snapchat. We also go through the story of Yahoo wanting to buy Facebook and Mark deciding not to sell. And how at that point of time people within Facebook felt about it. We also go through the stories of a lot of people who came into Facebook either through acquisitions or as initial employees, and how they worked to build the company and then probably later on left the company. And some of the people are in good terms, some people are not in good terms. And then the third part of the book is about the US elections, Cambridge Analytica, privacy, and then what are the next things that's happening. Also, as you go through the pages, you also know about many of the tools that we use, many of the functionalities on Facebook that we use, how they came into existence, where did they come from, why did they decide to make it that way. And Stephen Levy had a lot of meetings with, not a lot, I think 7 or 8 meetings with Mark Zuckerberg. He had access to Sheryl, and he had access to a lot of people in Facebook, and that's how he came up with the story. There was an interview, Stephen Levy, and it's available on YouTube, where he was asked, what would Facebook, Sheryl and Mark think when they read the book? And Stephen's answer was, they would not agree with everything that I wrote over there, but they would definitely think that I did a fair attempt to tell the story. And when you read, you feel that as well, because as I progress in the book, I was feeling a bit that, okay, are they going to really talk about things that are controversial, things that make Facebook uncomfortable? Or are those things going to be discussed? Yes, they are being discussed. So I'm not going to go detail into the book, because reading a book, you have to experience this. And just like movies cannot tell you the entire story of a book or an event, I mean, a video cannot do justice to a book. But there is something that I want to really share with you, because this was I didn't know about these things the way it was mentioned over here. So he talks about this. He starts the book with the lawyer Andrew Weinrich, who is the CEO of the company called 6 Degrees. And the book starts with he explaining about social network. I think towards the late part of 90s. And a few blocks from where Mark lived, Mark was 12 at that time. And he was talking about the importance to connect and the possibilities to connect people in the world. And he talks about 6 Degrees, and he says, he quotes Guglielmo Marconi as the person who came up with the idea that you could connect with anyone in the world through 6 connections. But Stephen Levy says that the person who came up with that idea is Frigyes Karinthy. He's a Hungarian writer who wrote a book called Chain Links, in which he mentions in 1929, he mentions that there is a possibility, and it is possible in the future, to connect. Everyone can connect with any other person in the world through 5 connections, not 6 degrees, 5 connections. And there is a small part of that story, I believe, that he puts here, and I want to read that to you. And this was written in 1929. Okay, planet Earth has never been as tiny as it is now. It shrunk, relatively speaking, of course, due to the quickening pulse of both physical and verbal communication. This topic has come up before, but we had never framed it quite this way. We never talked about the fact that anyone on earth, at my or anyone's will, can now learn in just a few minutes what I think or do, and what I want or what I would like to do. 1929 is when that was written. And he said 5 connections. You could, your friends, that's how you could connect. But we didn't have computers and the computing power. Then 1960s, 70s, they started researching, and they found out that they modeled that you could connect with anyone in the world through 5.2 connections. And then during the 80s or 90s, the play and the film 6 Degrees of Separation, the movie came up, and then became popular. So Andrew started this company called 6 Degrees, and the idea was to connect people. But they were a bit too early. So one of the things that they figured out was that people wanted to upload pictures. And we didn't have digital cameras that popular. Obviously, we didn't have phones like now where you can take the picture and upload it. So all those things were not there. Anyway, he sold the company for $129 million or so at that time. But he is the person who came up with this concept that there is a business potential in this whole thing. And at that time, it said that he was thinking that they could hire a lot of people and get pictures and scan it and then upload. There was no Instagram. So I was very fascinated when I read that. I thought, see, there are people who come up with ideas, and sometimes ideas are, you don't even know whether it's practical. It is just part of stories, part of fiction. And then those ideas are again people try to see if there is a business potential. And then you're too early, and still the viability is a problem. And then there is a right time and a right mix of strategy and everything coming together. That's what probably happened with Facebook. What went wrong with MySpace? What went wrong with Friendster? What went well with Facebook? And for people who are just starting their career, people who are in the tech industry, people who are trying to build the next Facebook or next technology company, I think they should read the book. It talks about challenges and how you have to fight or you have to overcome challenges. When we look at challenge, we think challenges have to be overcome only from one side. No. Some challenges are such that you have to overcome it from multiple sides. You overcome it from this side, then you have to overcome it from that side. Because challenges, for example, one particular case I saw over here was when Yahoo wanted to buy Facebook. Now, you would say is that it's just a decision whether you want to sell or not. But then you have investors, you have employees, you have people who think that, people who don't think this is going to grow to that huge a company, so you should probably sell it and make the money. And if you're running the company, how do you make a decision there? And that's interesting. So those are the things. So you can if you want, you can read it as a story, of what inside Facebook happened. But I would really recommend you to read and pause and try to understand what's there. Because to a great extent, when you read other people's story, there are a lot of things that you can learn from that and use in your own life or your own business or anything. Now, Facebook was set out to connect the world. But when you connect the world, it never thought that it would be not connecting just the good people in the world. It would be also connecting the bad people in the world. So when you connect bad people in the world, there are many challenges. Good people will become persuaded by the bad people. Bad people will collaborate and do bad things. So I don't know. That's how technology is sometimes. We might know that our technology might go wrong. It might go wrong. Sometimes we won't know. Sometimes we might know and we might not take it seriously because we think, okay, it's not going to be. Because we have a lot of pressure probably. And I'm not trying to judge anyone. And that's what Stephen Levy does. He just puts a story in front of us. And that's where I said the challenges are not necessarily one-sided. And if you want to overcome a challenge, you have to overcome the challenge from multiple sides. And you can't do it alone. And that's what you see with Facebook. Facebook was not built by one single person. There are a lot of people who built it. There was even the story of, I think, John Green, who was with Mark in Harvard. And he was one of the initial people who started working on Facebook. And then Mark got in trouble. And he was just close to getting dismissed from the college. And John Green's dad, who was UCLA professor, he comes to Harvard and he tells John Green, don't ever engage with Mark because Mark might get dismissed. You don't want to, just focus on your studies. And then he decided not to be involved with Facebook. And probably he would have lost millions of dollars just because of that. You also hear stories of a lot of other people in the book who probably missed it And it's interesting, how life is. But if you're really interested in how companies are formed, how companies make mistakes, how some mistakes cost them a lot more than some other mistakes, how companies anticipate that they would make a mistake and still not do anything about it, and about the countless mistakes that we would have avoided, but we don't recognize the effort behind avoiding mistakes. We only recognize the problems we have when we face mistakes. Anyway, that's a lot to talk about. At least 15 minutes for a 540-page book makes sense. Facebook, The Inside Story by Stephen Levy. Buy it, read it, and I'll see you again. Thank you.